Imagine with me for a moment that you come across an idea in a book that completely encapsulates everything that you've been thinking about and feeling for a season that you're in right now. It's your lightning bolt moment, like when Barry Allen becomes the Flash. Now, over time, you let this idea and this thought marinate in your mind, and you allow it to become more prominent in your thinking, and you all of a sudden have started to develop your own language for this idea, and you've put it into your own words, and now it's even a motto that you live by. It's something that is a staple in your life, and it all stems from this one idea in a book that you've read. Now, years later, you're sitting across from a friend who is pouring their heart out to you about something that they're thinking about, they're passionate about. And as you're listening, it's your turn to respond. And what comes out of your mouth is your motto. And you see their eyes light up. And there's a single tear that just flows down their cheek. And you realize in that moment that you've experienced giving someone else their lightning bolt moment. If you're like me, you don't just want to capture interesting ideas and thoughts, but you want to take those, process it through your thinking, and then share that with somebody in hopes that it will impact their life, in hopes that it will change their perspective. But the reality is those moments won't happen if we are sharing forgettable ideas. Right? So in this video, I want to share with you 3 ways to take your ideas from boring to memorable. Now, before we get started, I do have a free gift for you for hanging out with me today and watching this video. This is my free guide on how to take book notes and get those insights into your second brain, all without using Readwise. By the end of the guide, you will have a simple system for highlighting books, a mindful approach for adding content to your second brain, a process for creating building blocks of knowledge for the future, and then a simple tip for making more connections inside of your second brain. The link to the free guide is in the description below. All right, now a quick note, all of these insights I'm about to share are from the book Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. It's an incredible book. I'll drop a link down below if you want to check it out. All right, now the first way to go from boring ideas to memorable ideas is to keep it simple. All the ideas that you've been able to hold on to in your life have been easy to understand, right? Now, this doesn't mean that we dumb things down, but we find ways to remove the friction of understanding the idea, the concept that you're trying to explain. It's my desire to close the gap of understanding to where the moment that the words leave my mouth or from the page, the other person, the reader, the recipient, the listener is understanding what I'm saying instantly. Now, there are 2 ingredients to make an idea simple. Number 1 is you have to find the core, and number 2 is you have to make it compact. You can build your idea and have all of the stories and the interesting facts and stats and all of that to support it. But if you don't have the essence of the idea nailed down, it will be hard to remember. This reminds me a lot of music, right? Music is made up of melody and rhythm, and the chords that are played support the melody. And within each chord are single individual notes to make up the chord. And every chord has what's called a root note. It's the foundation of the chord. Every note that is played above that root note is based on the root note. You can find the core idea by distilling down to the essence of what it is that you are trying to communicate. Which leads me to make it compact. Now, here we are finding ways to tighten things up so that the idea fits in someone's mind and stays there. So we want to make like a pocket-size idea so that they can take it with them everywhere they go and have it readily available. The saying less is more has never been more true, in this case. Make it compact. Turn one page into a paragraph. Turn one paragraph into a sentence. Turn one sentence into a word. They talk about this in the book, and this is something that I'm working through right now. And that is, you're going to have to discard a lot of great ideas to get to the one idea, the one core idea that you're trying to communicate. But the good thing is you don't have to completely delete the other ideas, right? You want to save those ideas for later. It's just not needed at this moment or for the idea that you're trying to communicate. The second way that we can take our boring ideas and make them memorable is to break the pattern. In a world where all information is available at your fingertips at any moment, at any time of the day, we need to break the pattern to gain attention. Our brains are wired to ignore things that we are consistently exposed to. So if we want to make our ideas memorable, we need to find ways to wake up the brain. And that's what break the pattern does. We need to keep things interesting. Now, going back to the music analogy, you can break patterns in music by switching the notes out in the chords. And what's interesting is that one single note can change the feeling of a chord. The feeling that you get whenever a major chord is played is a happy chord versus a minor chord. The only difference between those two chords is one note by a half step. But you can break the pattern and make something completely different by shifting just one note. So how can we take that into sharing ideas? You don't need to go crazy. You can just take one little thing and tweak it a little bit. Now, as you're building up your idea, you want to imagine what your audience would expect and then do the opposite. If you're your audience, imagine what you would expect and do the opposite. Do something different. Change things up. Another way we can look at this is look at what everybody else is doing and do the opposite of that. It breaks the pattern. Something to note that I've been thinking about as it relates to break the pattern, I'm a huge fan of routines and systems. Like once I find something that works, I want to double down on that and keep doing it. And there's wisdom to that. But at the same time, if I'm not careful, I will continue to do something and kind of just bury it in the ground because I keep going after this one strategy that I'm trying to do. But eventually people will tune out to what I'm trying to communicate. In other words, if you stick to something over and over and over, people will catch on and then tune out. All right, and the final way that we can bring our ideas from boring to memorable is to share a story. This reminds me of the quote from Maya Angelou that says, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." Effective stories will make you feel something. We are drawn to stories. That's why we love movies, right? That's why we love books. We're drawn to stories. We love when people share stories. When it comes to sharing memorable ideas, stories is one of the best ways to do that. It's like the Swiss Army knife of all the tools that you can use because it has almost all of the qualities of an idea that will stick. For me personally, I really want to become a good storyteller. I think those that are storytellers are going to be the ones that change the world. They have in the past, and they'll continue to change the world. So I want to be an effective storyteller, and I want to really work on my craft as a storyteller because I think that's where ideas shine, is in stories. And this is one of the main reasons that I jot down what I call meaningful moments. I've talked about this in several videos, but these are it's a collection of stories, personal stories and moments in my life that can go from, how the kids say something or something ridiculous happened to me. It may be small and it may be something that's like, why even write that down? But I believe that in every moment of that I jot down, there's a seed of a story, right, that I can use to help illustrate, to help communicate an idea that I'm trying to get across. I mean, I started out this video with a story. Sure, it was a fake story, but it was a way to paint a picture of the point that I was trying to make. And hopefully for some of you, it made you want to start really focusing on sharing memorable ideas. So these are just 3 of the 7 methods or principles, whatever you want to call them, from Made to Stick. These are the ones that stood out to me. But if you want to check out the full book and read all about how to make ideas stick, then I recommend that you check that book out. Again, the link is in the description below. And thank you so much for hanging out with me up until this point. I hope you got some value from this video. If you want to keep nerding out with me on personal knowledge management and creativity, all that stuff, then watch this next video.